Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Morrow Teaches Online. Don't forget to subscribe, and Morrow merch will be coming out pretty soon. So here we go. One of the hardest topics of the year is how do we solve literal equations? So here's the homework that you had. Again, you can pause this video whenever you want to check the answers, but I want to get moving with one of the top 5 hardest lessons of the algebra curriculum. Okay, so here's the idea is we know how to solve equations, but now there's more than one variable in the equation, and we need to just solve for one of them. Usually this intimidates students because they go, well, what happened to the numbers? But if you can just look past that, it's the same steps as any two-step equation or any distributing or variables on both sides. You got to just look past that there's multiple variables. So here we go. On the left side, a very, very easy equation. So let's solve it. Minus 3 on both sides. You get 7x is equal to 7. Divide both sides by 7, and you get x equals 1. Simple enough. That's why it's a two-step equation. Now on the right side, that's a lot scarier looking. So the key to these is just to come up with a plan. So first of all, we're solving for x in this question. The variable will change for every question, but in this case, we're solving for x. First, ask yourself, which side is it on? Is it on the left side of the equal sign or the right? And hopefully you all notice, hey, it's on the left side. Now, without telling me any math, let's just think about what do we want to get rid of that's not an x. So I see an a on this side, I see a c on this side. And then the question is, okay, so I know I got to get rid of those, but how do I know which one to get rid of first? So I want you to think back to any nature film you've ever seen about a lion and a gazelle. The lion never goes after the pack because if it goes after the pack, it's going to get destroyed by all the gazelle's horns. So it always goes after the one gazelle that runs in the wrong direction, where he goes, oh my goodness, I thought we were all going to run the other way. I don't know why that's what I think a gazelle sounds like, but in my head, that's what it sounds like. So if you see the X is attached to that A. So it's too hard to attack the A right now because it's attached to the X, and that's like the pack. So then you ask yourself, well, who's that gazelle that ran in the wrong direction? And there it is. It's the C. It's all by itself. So it's much easier to attack. So let's attack it. If you're adding C, subtract C. Okay, so we do that. We're left with AX equals. Now, the funny part is students just assume, oh my goodness, R minus C, it's got to be something else, like another letter or a blend of the two. Again, are they like terms? And the answer is no. So when I usually ask the question, what's R minus C? People feel like they need to come up with this elaborate answer. And the answer is R minus C is R minus C. If you can't combine it, then don't. So then you're like, okay, do I just leave it? Well, is X alone yet? No. So what's next to it? Now that the A and the X are all by themselves, now you attack the A. So students again ask me, well, how do I know what operation to do? Well, do you see a plus? So then it's not addition. Do you see a minus? Then it's not subtraction. When two things are attached to each other like that, that's always multiplication. So the way to get rid of multiplication is you divide on both sides. And when you do that, again, same question. Well, what's R minus C divided by A? Well, if you can't do anything, then don't. And that's your answer. I know it doesn't look like an answer. I know you feel upset when you see it because you say to yourself, this can't be right. It just doesn't look right. Well, it is the answer. That's why this is a hard topic. It's because a lot of times you just can't accept that that's what answers look like sometimes. So be ready for anything today. So These ones are obviously much easier. They all take one step, which is why we're starting off with them. But you always got to pay attention to which letter you're solving for. So for the first one, it says solve for W. Same plan. Ask yourself, which side is it on, the left or the right? And it's on the right. Well, what else is on that side? An L. How do you get rid of the L? Well, if they're attached to each other, if you're multiplying by L, then you got to divide both sides by L. The L's go away, and you're left with W equals what's A divided by L? That's right, A divided by L. And students always ask me, well, how do I know when I'm done? Well, it says solve for W. Is W all by itself on one side of the equal sign? If it is, then you're done. I know you expect a better answer, but there isn't any. So the next one says solve for H. Oh my goodness, that was a terrible line. I can't even leave that there. Here we go. Okay, so the H is on the right side. I see a B is attached to it. I want to get rid of that B. So divide both sides by B, and you get H equals A divided by B. And there's your answer. Okay, so for number 3. Now we're solving for T. Oh no, there's more letters with it. Who cares? Again, it's on the right side. I see a P and an R also on that side. Well, you need to get rid of them. Well, if they're all attached to each other, then it must be multiplication. So the way to get rid of them is to divide by them. So we're going to divide by P and R. There they go. And you're left with T equals I over P R. And that's your answer. Again, you know you're done when the letter you want is all by itself. Okay, so now let's just do these a little bit faster so we can get to the harder ones. I wanted purple. That does not look like purple. I see H is on the right side. I don't want the L. I don't want the W. So I'm going to divide by L and W. Goodbye L, goodbye W, and I'm left with V over LW equals H. And you can see that I'm switching which sides I put the letter on. It doesn't matter since it's an equal sign. I mean, personally, I like to always put the letter I want on the left, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so for 5 now, 5 changes a little bit, but it's actually easier in my mind. So it says solve for C. Okay, well, C again is on the right side. Who else is on the right side? A negative S. Okay, so we got to get rid of that S. Well, if we're minusing S, how do we get rid of it? Do the opposite. Add S on both sides, even though my S's look like 5s. That goes away, and you're left with C equals what's M plus S. Not miss. You write M plus S. And there's your answer. Okay. So for 6, we're solving for M, meaning I want M all by itself. Okay, so if you're dividing by V, how do you get rid of it? Do the opposite. Multiply by V. Okay, so when you do that, the V's go away and you're left with M equals, doesn't matter if you write VD or DV, doesn't matter. Is M alone? Yes, it is. So one step are pretty easy because it takes literally one step. Okay, so now let's do multi-step. I mean, you can look at this yourself. I don't need to explain it. Let's just get started. So for 7, it says solve the equation for T. Okay, so there's a lot more going on, and of course, these are what the Regents questions look like, and I actually think these might be real Regents questions. So let's take this a little bit slower. Okay, so first of all, we're solving for T. Well, T is on the right side, so who's not a T? I see a P, I see another P, and an R. So now again, we got to think like that lion. Don't go after the pack. This is the pack. It's too hard to attack this right now. There's too many of them. So you want to go after, and it's, you know what? I don't want to actually say that because what I said is kind of wrong. It's not because there's more stuff on that side. It's because they're attached to the letter we want. So we don't want to attack it because it's attached to the letter we want. So let's go after the gazelle that ran in the wrong direction. You see how there's that P all by itself. That's what you want to attack first. So if we're adding by P, or since it's a positive P, we're going to minus P on both sides. So now we have A minus P equals P R T. Okay? Now we're getting closer to getting T by itself. Okay, now let's look on the right side again. Now that there's nothing else to do but attack the pack, now we can do it. So we want to get rid of the P and the R so that T is by itself. Well, since they're all attached to each other, just divide by it. So we're going to divide by P and R on both sides. T equals A minus P over PR. And again, you know you did it right because it's the letter that we want all by itself. Yes, it is. So now we just got to find it. And what do you know? It's B. Okay. So you just got to look past the idea of, I don't get this. There's no numbers. It's not possible. You just got to say to yourself, okay, it's the same steps as if there were numbers. So the next one says, then what would W be represented by? Okay, so W's on the right side. So again, come up with that plan. I see a 2L and I see a 2. If I could theoretically get rid of all of that, W would be all by itself. Well, obviously we can't just scribble it out because then math would be pointless. So who do I attack first? Do I go after the 2 that's attached to the W, or do I go after the 2L? And the answer is you go after the 2L. Remember, always attack what's not touching the letter you want. So let's get rid of the 2L first. If you're adding 2L, let's subtract 2L. And students usually at this point ask me, well, why aren't we dividing by 2? It's because we don't want the L either. You only divide if you want part of something. Like, for example, in the end, we're going to divide by the 2 because we want W by itself. Dividing is when you want to, like, cut something up. Since we want to get rid of the 2 and the L, there's no reason to cut it up because we want to get rid of all of it. So you're going to just minus 2L on both sides. And now you have P minus 2L is equal to 2W. Okay, I'm going to rewrite it down here since I ran out of space. Oh my goodness, my handwriting is getting worse. Equals 2W. Okay, now that there's nothing else to do but go after the 2W, now we're going to divide by 2 because we only want part of it. Now, here's the thing. Even though I can see that there's one answer written since it's multiple choice, I want you to recognize that there's 2 possible answers. So well, not answers written there, but I meant there would be answers that you could have seen. So the answer I see is the one that's right there. Okay, so that's the answer. But there is another way they could have written it. Instead of dividing the whole thing by 2, they could have done this instead. They could have divided each one by 2, and then you would have gotten W equals P over 2, and then they would have just eliminated the 2's and then just written L. So either one of these is a possible answer. They didn't write the other one, so that's why we obviously didn't do it that way. But just know that you could have it that way also. Okay, it looks complicated, but we can do this. Okay, we're always figure out which letter you're solving for first. So we're solving for H. Now there's a fraction. Ooh, man, do we not like fractions. So just know this. It says a half. If it ever says a half, multiply by 2. If it ever says 1 over 3, multiply by 3. If it ever says 1 over 100, multiply by 100. So whatever the denominator is, just multiply that or multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 2 first to get rid of the half. So we have 2a is equal to, the half disappears. That's why we multiplied by it. 2. B1 plus B2 times H. Okay. So now, take a look. We want H. So now, I see that this parentheses is right next to the H, which means that's multiplication. So how do we get rid of multiplication? We divide. So let's divide. If you don't want the B1 plus B2, then just divide by it. And the reason we're able to divide by the whole bubble is because it's all inside of it. If there wasn't parentheses there, you're not allowed to do this. But there is, so we are. So B1 plus B2, this whole bubble disappears, and you're left with this. And where is that? There it is. Notice how the parentheses disappeared in the final answer. That's totally fine. Okay. Next one. And I'm hoping the more examples you see, the easier this is getting. Okay, so it says which expression represents y in terms of all these, meaning your final answer should say y equals something. Okay, so here it is, ax plus, come on, plus by is equal to c. Come on. Okay. So, first of all, come up with the plan first before you start just aimlessly doing random math operations. We're solving for y. So if I could get rid of the a, the x, and the b, y would be by itself, correct? So who do I attack first? The b that's attached to the y, or the ax that's all by itself, not touching the y? Remember, think like a lion. Always go after what's not part of the pack. And that b is attached to that y, which makes it part of the pack. So if we're adding ax, we want to minus ax. So let's do it. We're going to minus ax. So we get by is equal to c minus ax. Okay, so we moved it to the other side. And again, notice how I'm not combining c minus ax into cax. No, it's just c minus ax. Just leave it like that. Okay, so now we got to get rid of the b. So if we're multiplying by b, divide by b. And the b's disappear on this side, and you're left with c minus ax over b. And I can guarantee this will be on your Regents test because they are all obsessed with this topic. I'm not saying you'll see more than one question. I think the most I've ever seen was 2 on a Regents test, but I can guarantee there will definitely be one of these on there. Okay. How many more we got? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. Still got a decent one. All right, let's try to do these a little bit faster. So 1/3 BH. We're solving for B. So that means we got to get rid of the third and the H. First attack the number, the fraction. So if it's 1/3, multiply both sides by 3. So you get 3V. That cancels out, and you're left with BH. We're solving for B, so we got to get rid of the H. So if you're multiplying by H, divide by H, and you're left with B equals 3V over H. There's your answer. Okay. A equals B plus C over D. We're solving for B this time. Okay, so the B's on the right side. So I got to get rid of the C and the D. But the problem is it's a fraction now. So now people go, okay, well, the C's not touching the B, but neither is the D. So who do I attack first? Since the C is in the numerator with the B, you probably want to get rid of the D first. So let's multiply both sides by D because honestly, we want to avoid fractions when we can. Come on. Okay, so you can write DA or AD, it doesn't matter. I always like to go alphabetical. So AD equals, because we just multiplied that side by D. Now the D's canceled out on this side, and you're left with B plus C. Okay, we're solving for B, so now we got to get rid of the C. So if we're adding C, we got to subtract C. And your answer is B equals AD minus C. I know this looks like a foreign language to you guys, but the more you do, the easier it will get. Okay, so for 13, it does 5/9, and also if you're wondering, this is the actual formula for converting Fahrenheit into Celsius. So some people say, well, let's distribute the 5/9 in. That's actually going to add an extra step to us. So why distribute when you don't have to? It says 5/9. Why don't we just get rid of the 5/9? So you could divide both sides by 5/9. It's going to get a little weird looking when you do that. So remember, the way to get rid of a fraction is just multiply by the reciprocal, which means just flip it. So if it's 5/9, multiply by 9/5. And whatever you do to one side, got to do to the other. Come on. This marker's starting to run out. So that cancels out. You're left with 9/5 C is equal to F minus 32. Okay. Now we're almost done. Is F by itself yet? No, there's still a minus 32 on that side. So if you're subtracting 32, add 32 on both sides. And your final answer is F equals 9/5 C plus 32. And that's how you convert Celsius into Fahrenheit. Hooray. Yay, science. Okay, 14. Solve for M. Again, we don't like fractions, so let's get rid of the fraction first. If we're dividing by 2, multiply both sides by 2. Okay, the 2's cancel out. You're left with 2k is equal to mv squared. Okay, now we want the m, not the v. If we wanted the v, eventually, you know what, I don't want to give it away because I think there's one coming later. So let's not even talk about it yet. So we want m. So what don't we want then? We don't want the v and we don't want the square. So if we're multiplying by v squared, divide by v squared. So we're going to divide by v squared on both sides. Goodbye v squared. And m is equal to, come on, 2k over v squared. And there it is. Is m alone? Yes, it is. Okay. Solve for pi? It's a weird one to solve for because it's not a variable. That's weird. Can't say I've ever seen that before. But we're going to do it anyway. Usually it says solve for r or solve for h. Yeah, let's just solve for pi because the next one's kind of like it. Okay, so if it says pi r squared h, okay, and that's the volume of a cylinder, if you were wondering. So here we go. So we don't want the r squared, we don't want the h. So if you're multiplying by r squared h, divide by r squared h. Goodbye r squared, goodbye h. Pi equals v over r squared h. And there it is. E equals mc squared. Let's be some Einsteins right now. Okay, so we want the c. So that means we're going to need to get rid of the m and the squared. Since the squared is very much attached to that c, we're going to deal with the squared last. Let's deal with the m first. Since we're multiplying by m, let's divide by m. Goodbye m. C squared is equal to, I don't know why I switched sides. I probably should stick with the same side for now. E divided by m is equal to c squared. Now, here's where people get stuck. They know the opposite of addition is subtraction. They know the opposite of multiplying is dividing, but then they say to themselves, uh-oh, what's the opposite of squaring? Well, if you're yelling out it's square root, you are correct. To get rid of a square, you need to square root both sides. That gets rid of the squared. So you get c equals the square root of e over m. And there it is. Yeah, that's where students definitely get stuck. Okay. Here we go. Solve for x. Okay, we got a lot going on that side. I see a 3, an a minus n, and a 5. Like I said, I don't like fractions, so we got to get rid of those first. So if you're dividing by 5, let's multiply by 5. You got 3ax minus n equals negative 20. Okay, so now the 3, the A, and the X are all attached to each other. So that's going to be hard to attack the 3 or the A at this moment. But that minus N, that looks like a nice gazelle that we could go after if we're going to be lions right now. So let's go after that minus N. So I'm going to add N on both sides. Doesn't really matter where you put the N. You can put it in front of the minus 20, behind it. Doesn't matter. 3AX, that's a terrible 3, equals negative 20 plus N. Oh my goodness, what just happened? Okay, so now we move the N. Now that there's nothing else but the pack, the 3, the A, and the X, now it's time to attack it. So we want to get rid of the 3 and the A. Since they're all attached to each other, that's multiplying. So let's divide by 3A. Goodbye 3, goodbye A. X equals negative 20 plus N over 3A. Okay. Next one. Not a very hard question if you just know what the opposite of squaring is. And like we said before, I don't know why I drew that. It's going to get messy looking. The opposite of squaring is square rooting. So you want to square root both sides. And S equals the square root of A. And there it is. Okay, we got 2 left. We can do it. Didn't we have this one before? Hold on. Isn't this number 12? Silly Mr. Morrow. It's this. Oh, that one said solve. No, it is the same one. We're not doing this again. Silly me. Okay, and number 20 to finish off. Hey, it's a proportion. What do we do? That's right. It's the butterfly. So let's do the butterfly. Flies away. See, you didn't think this class would be about nature and science with lions, gazelles, and butterflies, but it is. Also, if you made it this far in the video, I'm impressed. So 2 times B plus 3 is 2 times B plus 3 equals E times F is EF. Okay. And now we're solving for E. So now that we've cross multiplied, it's much easier to see where it is. Okay, well, E's on the right side. Well, there's only one thing on the right side. It's an F. So if you're multiplying by F, divide by F. Also, students always ask me, do I need to distribute? You don't need to distribute unless it's multiple choice and you don't see that as an option. But if you get to write your answer in, you can totally leave your answer like this. Oops. There it is. So I hope this video helped explain this very hard topic. I know it's like math you've never seen before, but I believe in you guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I think that's what YouTubers say. All right, bye.